Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy John, aka Speros here. In today's YouTube video, we are going to be talking about arguably one of the biggest problems with Modern Warfare 2 and one of the biggest problems I think we'll have in Warzone 2 if the devs don't address it. Before we get into all of that, if you guys have not already dropped a like on this video, I'd very much appreciate that. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys are thinking the biggest problem is inside of Modern Warfare 2 and possibly Warzone 2. And as always, if you guys want to find your way back for more Call of Duty content, make sure you guys are subscribed with the bell notification set to all. Without further ado, guys, let's get into the biggest problem in Modern Warfare 2. So the class of weapons that are creating this giant problem inside of Modern Warfare 2 are going to be the Marksman Rifles, and there's a few reasons why they are causing these issues, but the main reason is just because of their insta-kill potential. They pretty much can delete people at any range in just one shot, and we're going to dive into all of the specifics on all of the Marksman Rifles, but specifically the ones that do the one-shot kill, going over what ranges they're effective up to, along with their ADS times, and also their rounds per minute, so basically their fire rate, because if we're going to be dealing with this problem, I feel like most people are using these at this point, and the majority of people are actually using the wrong one because they think that is actually the best, but one of the other ones is actually better. Okay, so getting into the TTK, and this is going to go ahead and show us that one-shot kill potential and pretty much the ranges that they're effective in. If they are on the bottom here, these are all 0 millisecond TTKs. These are going to be the one-shot kills, and this is what keeps the TTK so incredibly fast, is the fact that it only takes one shot to connect at the chest, neck, or head, and it'll go ahead and eliminate the enemy. Obviously, we have some of the other ones that are not actually bolt action, which does make them possible meta contenders, but for the most part, these single fire, bolt action, one shot kill Marksman Rifles are going to be dominant, and the main one I'm talking about is the SPR. This one does have arguably the best range in terms of the snappy Marksman Rifles, goes out to about 50-ish meters. Obviously, the SAB comes in close behind with around 45 meters, and then we have the Lockwood MK2 right around 25-ish meters is when the one-shot range falls off. Obviously, when you're seeing the TTKs jump this high, this is because we're looking at the RPMs, or the rounds per minute. Basically, it's going to take 2 shots to kill, so it takes around 1,018 milliseconds for the SPR to go ahead and rack another shot and go ahead and fire that. Obviously, there are some attachments like the bolt assembly, which has an attachment slot that you're actually able to rechamber rounds faster, so that is something to keep in mind. However, the SAB does seem to be a little bit better than the SPR, obviously with that damage range trade-off. The Lockwood MK2 is a little bit on the low side, especially compared to the SAB and the SPR. And then obviously you have the other Marksman Rifles, which have very, very good TTKs. And obviously you have the LAB 330. This one has a one-shot range that goes off to infinity. All you have to do is point, shoot, and you're good to go. This rivals a lot of the heavy snipers. And the fact that they're able to do one-shot kills is not what makes them grossly overpowered. It's the fact that their ADS time is so incredibly fast. And most of their ADS times even get better than what I'm going to show you today, just because you can put on the faster ADS attachments, while other weapons like assault rifles, for example, the M4 has a base ADS time of 240 milliseconds, but for the most part, most people are putting on damage barrels, foregrips, stocks, all that kind of stuff, which is going to actually increase that ADS time, in some instances making ADS slower than some of these one-shot Marksman Rifles, which are incredibly fast. Okay, so getting into the ADS time graph, and again, this is why they're so incredibly powerful. You have the LAB. This is the one-shot pretty much to infinity. This has a 470-ish millisecond ADS time. This is obviously going to be more in line with the snipers. Then when you're moving over, these are the two that you really want to compare, is the SAB and the SPR. The SAB has a faster ADS time than the SPR, and the SAB again has slightly less range, but the range is kind of negligible just for the fact that most of your engagements are going to be within that 40-ish meters that the SAB is effective in, so making it, in my opinion, much better than the SPR, especially when you stack the SAB out with all of the ADS attachments. I think it is just a little bit faster than the SPR, and most people are using the SPR and honestly the SAB is better. However, again, looking at the ADS time, the M4 has around a 240-second ADS time, which seems like a lot lower, but realistically, when we're talking in these terms of milliseconds, it is not that much of a difference, and it's why these weapons are just so incredibly powerful and just overpowering in the game. When we get into their rounds per minute or their cycle rate, you can see the LAB cannot fire as many rounds per minute. It's a little bit under 40. The Lockwood MK2 is significantly less effective than the SAB and the SPR, and because of that, it does put out a lot more rounds per minute. The fire rate is significantly faster. Comparing the SAB to the SPR, the SAB can put out 65 rounds per minute, whereas the SPR can only put out that 59 rounds per minute. So the fire rate isn't too terribly off, but then when you couple the rounds per minute also with the ADS time, that is why I think the SAB is significantly better. Getting back on how to fix this kind of issue, I don't really know if there is a fix without making marksman rifles completely useless, because if they lower their damage range enough, they're going to all end up being two shots, making them essentially useless inside of the game. But if they leave them how they are, they're going to just continue to just absolutely dominate, leaving you with no time to react and kind of ruining the gaming experience. With that being said, I don't really see them coming up with a fix or fixing it, so we might as well enjoy it while we have it. So here are some builds for you guys. All right, so getting into the very first setup that I'm going to recommend, it's going to be for the EBR-14. This is not a one-shot kill, but it does have a very solid TTK, coming in at around 210 milliseconds. So getting into the setup, I have the Husher 65 silencer. This is for sound suppression, bullet velocity, and recoil smoothness, because there is a little bit of bounce and kick to this weapon. But once you guys use this setup, you'll realize that this pretty much gets rid of all of the visual recoil. Then we have the FSS ULV laser. This is for the aim down sights, aim stability, and that sprint to fire, because that is very important. And then I'm using the SZ mini optic. I personally don't prefer the iron sights, and I really don't prefer putting a high zoom optic on this weapon. I like to use it more of an AR just because it has that spam ability to it, along with that crazy TTK. Getting into the stock, I'm using the SO90 factory stock. This is again for recoil control and aim stability. And then getting into the magazine, I'm using a 20 round magazine. This doubles the typical 10 round magazine that it comes with without hurting the ADS too much. Getting into the SPR, this is arguably one of the most annoying weapons to run up against. I do have this one built out kind of for super close quarters combat, so that way it has the fastest ADS and movement and everything like that. For the barrel, I'm using a 12.5 inch carbon barrel. Again, that ADS and movement speed. For the laser, I have the FSS ULV laser, again for the ADS. For the stock, I'm using the ZRL T70 pad extension. That's going to give you some sprint speed and aim down sight speed. For the comb, I'm using the Aim Assist 406. It's a kind of a funny name, to be honest, because this is an aim assist heavy weapon. This does sprint to fire and aim down sights. And then, like I was talking about earlier, you can use those bolts that help the rechambering speed, kind of help you get your RPMs up, get more rounds through the rifle faster. And that's going to be the ST87 bolt. Then moving on to the SAB50. This is arguably the best out of all three that I've shown today, and this is, I think, the best marksman rifle. If you're going to go for that iron sights, highly aggressive gameplay, this is going to be the one that you're going to want to use. By default, this has a 10 round mag, which is significantly better than the SPR. And then on top of that, the movement, ADS, everything is just so much better on this weapon. I can't believe people are even using the SPR when this thing exists. Getting into the barrel, I'm using the 12.5 inch carbon barrel. Then I'm using the FSS ULV laser. This is for obviously the aim down sight speed. This marksman rifle is special because you can actually put on a no stock attachment, which bumps up all the mobility stats, all the handling. It gets you insane ADS, insane sprint to fire, and insane movement speed. Then for the grip, I'm using the Schlager match grip. This is for sprint to fire and ADS. And then again, the ST87 bolt, so that way you can get more RPMs, get more rounds through it. Again, the SAB50 does have a higher rounds per minute count than the SPR, so this again just increases it even further, making it that much better. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you learned something. Hopefully you guys are kind of in the same boat with the marksman rifles being a little bit overpowered. If not, it's totally cool. Let me know in the comment section down below how you guys are feeling about it. If you guys haven't already dropped a like, I'd appreciate that. Subscribe if you guys are brand new around here and you want to see more content just like this. And as always, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.